The British began to establish their rule over the Indian subcontinent in the mid-18th century. Here are some of the key ways in which they maintained control. Military power. The British East India Company had a powerful army that allowed them to defeat local Indian rulers and establish control over their territories. They also used their military might to quell any rebellions or uprisings against their rule. Political control. The British appointed governors and other officials to run the territories they had conquered. They also used a system of indirect rule, where they would appoint Indian princes or leaders to act as their puppets in governing certain areas. Economic exploitation. The British exploited the natural resources and manpower of the subcontinent to fuel their own economy. They imposed heavy taxes on the Indian people and forced them to grow cash crops like cotton and tea for export to Britain. Divide and conquer. The British used the divide-and-rule tactic to pit different groups of Indians against each other, thereby weakening any potential resistance to their rule. Cultural domination. The British imposed their language, customs, and values on the Indian people. They also banned or suppressed traditional practices and beliefs, leading to a loss of cultural identity and heritage. Overall, the British rule of the subcontinent was characterized by exploitation, oppression, and control through force and manipulation. There were several factors that led to the end of British rule in the Indian subcontinent. Indian independence movement. The Indian people began to demand independence from British rule in the early 20th century. Leaders like Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Sir Syed Ahmed Khan, Mahatma Gandhi, and Jawaharlal Nehru led peaceful protests and campaigns for Indian self-rule. World War II. India played a significant role in the Allied war effort during World War II, with Indian soldiers fighting alongside British troops. However, the war also highlighted the contradictions of British rule, with Indians questioning why they were fighting for a country that did not grant them basic freedoms and rights. Economic challenges. After the war, Britain faced economic challenges and could no longer afford to maintain its colonial empire. The cost of administering and defending India was becoming increasingly expensive. Growing unrest and violence. As the Indian independence movement gained momentum, there were increasing incidents of unrest, violence, and protests against British rule. The British response to these protests was often heavy-handed, leading to further resentment and opposition. International pressure. The international community, including the United States and the Soviet Union, began to pressure Britain to grant India independence. India had also become a symbol of anti-colonial resistance across the world. Ultimately, in 1947, the British government passed the Indian Independence Act, which granted independence to India and Pakistan. The departure of the British was not entirely peaceful, however, as it was accompanied by widespread violence and partition, leading to the displacement and deaths of millions of people. The British gained a range of benefits from their rule over the Indian subcontinent. Here are some of the key ways in which the British profited from their colonial control. Economic benefits. The subcontinent was a source of vast wealth for the British, as they exploited its natural resources, including cotton, tea, and opium. They also established a system of taxation that allowed them to extract wealth from the Indian people. Military benefits. The British East India Company maintained a powerful army that helped the British extend their control over the subcontinent. The Indian soldiers in the British Army were also used to fight in other British colonial wars around the world. Strategic benefits. The subcontinent was strategically important to the British Empire as a whole, as it provided a base from which the British could project power into other parts of Asia. It also served as a buffer against other colonial powers, particularly the Russians. Cultural benefits. The British imposed their language, culture, and values on the Indian people, which helped to spread British influence and prestige around the world. English became the language of administration and commerce in India, and Indian elites often adopted British manners and customs. Ideological benefits: the British justified their rule in India as a civilizing mission, arguing that they were bringing modernity and progress to a backward and primitive society. This ideology of imperialism helped to reinforce British identity and nationalism. Overall, the British gained significant economic, military, strategic, cultural, and ideological benefits from their rule over the Indian subcontinent. However, it is important to note that these benefits came at a great cost to the Indian people, who were subjected to exploitation, oppression, and cultural imperialism. The partition of India and Pakistan in 1947 was a traumatic event that resulted in significant challenges for the people of the region. Here are some of the problems faced by the Indo-Pak people. Displacement and migration. The partition led to the forced migration of millions of people across the new border between India and Pakistan. This resulted in widespread displacement, loss of property, and separation of families. Violence and communal tensions. The partition was accompanied by widespread violence, particularly in areas with mixed Hindu-Muslim populations. There were massacres, riots, and forced conversions, leading to deep-seated communal tensions that persist to this day. Economic challenges. The partition disrupted the economic fabric of the region, leading to the loss of jobs, property, and income for many people. The new nations of India and Pakistan faced significant economic challenges in the aftermath of partition. Political instability. Both India and Pakistan faced political instability in the early years of independence, with multiple changes in government, regional separatist movements, and conflicts with each other. Kashmir dispute. The dispute over the region of Kashmir, which was split between India and Pakistan, has led to ongoing conflict and tension between the two nations. Thanks for watching our channel. Do like, share, and subscribe, and press the bell icon for more interesting upcoming videos.